It started off like any typical late-night appearance, the audience cheering as Chuck Norris walked onto the stage with that signature steely gaze and quiet intensity. But something felt different from the start. Stephen Colbert, known for his quick wit and pointed jabs, was in rare form, and his opening jokes poked fun at some of Norris's past movies and political opinions, drawing awkward laughter from the crowd. Chuck, dressed in his usual denim and boots, smiled at first, giving a few nods, but his responses grew more clipped as Colbert pushed deeper. The energy in the studio shifted as the jokes became more pointed, less playful. It was supposed to be a fun segment, promoting a new action series, but the banter began to resemble a sparring match. The tension became palpable when Colbert brought up Norris's recent controversial comments on social media. Chuck's smile disappeared and he leaned in, challenging Colbert right back, accusing the host of twisting facts for laughs. Stephen, not one to back down, doubled down on his line of questioning, flipping through a stack of quotes and headlines. "You said this, didn't you?" he asked, his tone now more serious, holding up a printout. The crowd gasped when Norris snatched it from his hand and crumpled it slowly, his eyes never leaving Colbert's. "That's out of context," Chuck growled, his voice low but firm. The two men stared at each other for a long beat, the live audience now deathly silent, unsure if it was all part of the act. A producer off camera was seen waving, trying to signal for a commercial break, but the camera stayed locked on the escalating tension. "You think you can joke about everything, but some things aren't funny," Norris said. Colbert responded, "And I think hiding behind tough guy lines doesn't make you right." The atmosphere snapped. Norris's jaw clenched. The studio, lights seemed hotter, the room tighter. No one was laughing anymore. Chuck stood up abruptly, his chair screeching loudly as it scraped the studio floor. The sound echoed through the set. "I came here to talk about the show, not to be ambushed," he barked. Colbert tried to interject with a calming hand. "Chuck, come on." But Norris wasn't having it. He jabbed a finger toward the host's desk, saying, "Yeah, you always twist things for ratings. I'm not your punching bag." The audience didn't know how to react. Some gasped, others nervously chuckled, thinking it might still be scripted. But then Norris pulled off his mic and dropped it on the desk with a loud thump. "We're done," he said plainly. "Security." And staff began to rush the stage, not to restrain anyone, but to manage the growing chaos. Cameras quickly cut to Colbert's stunned expression. "Well, that escalated quickly," he muttered into the camera, trying to salvage the moment with humor, but his face betrayed real shock. Norris walked off stage with measured steps, the muscles in his jaw working overtime as he exited. Behind him, someone from the crew called his name, but he didn't turn around. Colbert looked down at the mic still on the desk, then turned to his audience, who were still unsure if they'd just witnessed reality or performance. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "that was not planned." The crowd clapped uncertainly. Meanwhile, online, clips of the confrontation were already being posted and shared. Within minutes, the hashtags Chuck vs. Colbert and the Chuck storms off were trending. People debated whether Colbert had gone too far or whether Norris had overreacted. On Reddit, theories emerged that it had all been a marketing stunt, but those in the room knew the tension was too real. Producers canceled the next segment and scrambled to fill time. The rest of the show limped along awkwardly, the echo of that confrontation lingering like smoke. In the green room, things were no better. Norris reportedly told a staffer to lose my number and declined all press interviews following the incident. The PR team was in crisis mode, trying to figure out if they needed to issue a joint statement or just let it blow over. TMZ ran, with the footage under the headline, "Chuck Norris goes full roundhouse on Colbert without throwing a punch." Meanwhile, Norris's team hinted that the show had crossed a line. "Chuck has always been open to tough questions," said a rep, "but there's a difference between an interview and an ambush." Fans on both sides clashed online. Norris loyalists called Colbert a smug liberal bully. Colbert's defenders called Chuck a dinosaur who can't handle heat. Memes exploded. One viral post showed Chuck kicking over Colbert's desk, even though that never happened. The internet had made up its own version of events, and truth was now optional. The next day, Colbert addressed the moment on his show, choosing a somber tone. "Sometimes things get real on this stage," he said. "Last night we had a moment that wasn't funny and it wasn't scripted." He didn't apologize but acknowledged that passions flared and words mattered. Some praised him for not backing down. Others criticized him for pushing too hard. Chuck Norris, for his part, posted a brief message on social media. "I stand by what I said. I won't be silenced by anyone, not even a late-night comic." That single tweet was retweeted 100,000 times in 2 hours. News networks ran segments on when interviews go wrong, dissecting every frame of the exchange. Analysts weighed in as if it were a political summit gone sideways. Meanwhile, fans of Chuck flooded his upcoming event in Texas, waving signs that read, "Stand strong, Chuck." What began as a promo tour had turned into a full-blown media firestorm. Colbert's staff began to feel the heat. Anonymous sources from inside the studio told entertainment blogs that the producers had warned Steven against confronting Chuck so directly. "We knew it could go bad," one staffer allegedly said. "Chuck doesn't play games." Others argued that the moment revealed something bigger, that pop culture and politics had finally collided in a way that couldn't be brushed off with jokes. Comedians and actors weighed in online. Bill Maher tweeted, "Don't invite Chuck Norris unless you're ready for a roundhouse reality check." Wanda Sykes posted, "This is what happens when tough guys meet tougher truths." The fallout was bigger than anyone expected. Advertisers hesitated. Sponsors of Chuck's show released statements distancing themselves from personal opinions expressed during unrelated appearances. Both camps braced for further damage. It wasn't just a bad moment on TV, it was now a cultural flashpoint in us. A surprising twist, fans began organizing a joint peace campaign. A Reddit group titled Chuck and Colbert Reconcile 2025 gained 40,000 members in 2 days. They demanded a follow-up interview, or even a charity arm wrestling match for veterans. "We need healing," one user wrote. "Let them fight it out for a good cause." Late-night hosts joked about the clash, with Jimmy Fallon doing a skit, where he interviewed Chuck Norris, a fictional Viking who only speaks in grunts. SNL ran a cold open parody, with Alec Baldwin playing Colbert and The Rock guest starring as Norris. But behind the scenes, neither man was laughing. Sources close to both said the tension was real and still unresolved. Chuck returned to his ranch in Texas and avoided press. Colbert resumed his show with a string of gentler interviews, perhaps taking a step back from confrontational politics. For now, the air was still thick with fallout. Weeks passed, but the moment lived on. Commentators compared it to iconic TV walk-offs from history. Think of Tom Cruise versus Matt Lauer or Kanye's infamous awards show interruptions. But this one felt different. Two icons from different worlds, clashing in real time, unscripted. Books were already being pitched to publishers about the Norris-Colbert divide. A university communications professor released a paper analyzing body language in the clip. Merch followed, shirts saying "Team Chuck" and "I survived the Colbert storm." Even Norris's action figure saw a sales spike. Netflix added Best Chuck Norris Moments to its homepage. Meanwhile, clips of the encounter were used in digital media courses and debate clubs. It had transcended mere gossip. It became a cultural moment, preserved in pixels, debated in forums, whispered about in boardrooms, all from a 5-minute exchange that began with a smile and ended with a storm-off. Eventually, time softened the edges. Chuck and Colbert never shared a stage again, but both made veiled references to the incident. In a podcast, Chuck joked, "At least I didn't kick over his desk." Colbert, months later, opened a show with a joke about installing storm-proof chairs. The world moved on, but fans never forgot. Every time Chuck appeared in public, someone asked about that interview. Every time Colbert grilled a guest, comparisons were made. It reminded the world that even legends have limits, that even the toughest men can walk away. The confrontation sparked debate, divided fans, and ultimately became legend. And maybe that's why it stayed viral. because it wasn't just TV. It was a reminder that personality clashes, even staged under hot lights, can reveal something deeply human, something raw, unscripted, and real, something that makes us lean in, gasp, and click share again and again.